What's up, guys? Justin here. Alright, today will be kind of a review slash kind of a turbo-ish type of vlog. Decided to try to do something a little different. I'm still working at a couple of reviews, let's call them reviews, from coworkers and a fellow poker friend of mine, all about the Benjamins. Two major complaints on my other video was the lighting. Not sure if that is that big of a deal. I'm sure I look very attractive to most of you guys, and women I'm kind of taken at the moment, so I'm not sure if the emphasis should be the lighting and the background that I have. The other complaint from All About the Benjamins is that there's static in the background. That probably has to do with the fact that I'm not using a mic, I'm just using the mic from the laptop. And the speaker being so close to the laptop is probably causing interference with the mic. So I positioned the speaker on my dresser, and hopefully, you see, I can't sit here and play poker in dead silence. I have to have some sort of music or something in the background. It'll just drive me nuts in dead silence. Well, sometimes, I don't know. But anyways, I'm doing a $7 triple up. The focus today is I'm gonna go over sit and go general strategy basics, as I was trying to cover and reiterate in my other videos. And I just really want to hone in on this because, again, this is not for just the seasoned veterans out there. It's for people that are just starting out. Things that I wish people would have told me, or a poker book was a little more explicit on. Let's see here. Okay, so we're waiting on one more player for the sit and go. That's why you're not seeing it. I'm not sure how I'm going to adjust the screen just yet. So I just want to see how this works out. Oh, the game did start. Wow. On the preview tournament screen, it did not show that. So let's see if this will work out. I may change the font a little bit. Let's see. It's recording. Okay. Recording the full screen. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Alright, so let's see how that works out. It should be recording the full screen, even though I don't see it on the preview over here. Okay, so at any rate, limits matter. I think if I was playing a $25 triple up versus a $50 triple up versus a $15 triple up, the player pool tends to change. So number one, oops, I lost my screen. This might not work out as well as I thought it would. Probably do this. Again, the goal is for me to not expose my desktop. You want to show that? Okay, well, we'll just have to toggle. Okay, let's just go with it. All right, so for review, actually, let me try one more thing. Yeah, this will have to do. I'll just decrease the font size here. I had it on the biggest setting. Let's try 48. Okay, I'm sure you guys can see that. Okay, so same routine I go through every game. Let's go with Be aware of stakes. I guess, again, what I mean by that, there's a different player pool, all different sorts of skills between, a very inexpensive buy-in tournament or sit and go versus a very expensive sit and go. I mean, this is just a general thing because there's bad players at all levels, and that's where winning players make most of their money is from other bad players, not other good players. So hopefully you're on that side of the track where you're the good player taking money from bad players. So be aware of the stakes, and I'll elaborate on this if you guys want to take notes. General player pool. I just had an alert on my phone. I get distracted like just everyone else. Oh yeah, so normally I play very low-key garage music. The other complaint was the music I was playing in my other videos was a little boring, so I elected for house music, no vocals, a little more upbeat. Maybe it'll make my videos a little less monotone. So, okay, so already I'm keeping in mind the action over here. So in this case, this is a low stakes sit and go. I'm not really expecting the highest level of play here. So just keep in your back of your mind, and after a while it'll become automatic what type of table you're playing with. Not individual V-pips and ranges, that just varies table to table, but the fact that it is a low buy-in sit and go, we're not going to look for elite class type plays here. And number two, as soon as you sit down, when you sit down, either live, sit and goes, tournaments, take note of V-pip, ranges as the type of hands they play depending on the position they're in. By the way, guys, I want to repeat this every time just because I've learned that learning from YouTube and even reading, the quicker the information is presented to you, the less likely you're going to remember it, just simply because, just from a biological mental standpoint, you have to absorb the material, right? You have to be able to look at it, understand it, remember it, and apply it to new situations. And the best way you get to just pure memorization to applying to specific situations is get the basics down. That way, when you go through your routine, you're going from a lower thought process to a more complex thought process. In the long run, you're reserving mental energy, brain energy, into thinking about tough spots that you're in. You already have a coin flip with ace-jack, and he got lucky with an ace, but that's one of the awarenesses of playing a lower stakes game. People are going to go all in with ace-10 offsuit, ace-jack offsuit, pre-flop when the blinds are 10-20. Whereas in a high stakes game, this guy's probably going to think about it. He's probably not going to go all in on the second hand if he paid $500 at a live casino sit and go. No, it just doesn't happen that way. Real dollars make real influences. So V-pip ranges per position. As I alluded to, most of my videos are just going to be, I have a general idea of, see, look how ridiculous this is. He's going to get lucky and get a spade? No. Okay. very good. He's out of there. He clearly gave up way too early. He only had 400 chips, but the blinds were 20. You have 20 big blinds. You could have been a little bit more patient there. And I understand all that. I've been through it. Everybody I know has been through it, where it's such low stakes, you just genuinely don't care about that amount of money. But the problem with that is you develop those habits. And when you tilt that medium to higher stakes, it'll cost you. It'll cost you a lot of money. So let's recap. Be aware of stakes, general player pool, either lives and goes tournaments. Pay attention. I kind of think of it in this order. Just let's pretend everyone's a complete stranger, just like this and go. Even if you're familiar with the player, maybe his mood is a little different, maybe his luck is a little different. If they're both positive, then their VPIPs are naturally going to raise. Depending on personality, maybe the ranges change as well when you're winning. So far, not exactly the most playable hands. As I say this, you're observing other players, but also be aware. This is a good one because I have to check myself on this sometimes. Be aware of your VPIP, perception of your VPIP, and your mood. Let's see if I can. Let me see if I can decrease the font a little bit. I think I want a little more text in here, in case you're catching this. Ooh, a little flop. Awesome flop. Oops. Bump it down just a little bit more. So I can get what 36 looks like. Cut off a little bit of that so you guys can see a little bit more. Perception of your VPIP. And we'll review this towards the end. Win or lose. This awareness here is very important. I wonder if I can come around this. No, I don't have Microsoft Suite. I'm cheap. Don't want to pay for a subscription. And this back in the days where you just bought it and you have it forever. But I can bold it. Look at that. No, it looks pretty bold anyways. Beware of your VPIP, the perception of your VPIP, and your mood, because players that want to take this game to their game to the next level, they're going to notice your tendencies as well. Very important. And that becomes more important later when you try to play more exploitive. I think of exploitive play more like basketball, where you're juking one way, you're going one way, you're leaning one way, and you go the opposite way. That's kind of what exploitive play is to me, if I had to make a strange analogy to it. Because you look a certain way, and you're taking advantage, they think you're taking advantage because it's obvious that you're leaning a certain way, but then you make an exploitive play and you just cut and you go in the other direction. You zag when they think you're zigging. That. Okay, so this is an interesting flop. Some players get a little shy here and don't see bet. I didn't raise pre-flop, so I could go either way. I don't have a king, but I'm going to go ahead and bet here. Cut myself off. I'm going to bet half pot. Well, no, a little more than that. be comfortable if he raised me. And he got nothing. So he fold. I mean, he folds. That would have been a sticky situation. This is my personal hell. Is slightly smaller than medium pairs. It's not smarter, it's slightly smaller, smaller, slightly larger. If I can speak, I can explain it. Let's see, I'm going to move myself up there. I'm going to have to just bump it up and see what happens. The standard play is to always raise that. And then you get some miscellaneous flats, which puts this pair in a lot of uncomfortable position, because look at this flop. Deuces you can get away from, fours you can get away with, from 5, 7s you could possibly get away from, but it's mandatory c-bet here, there's no way around it. Yeah, I got lucky, nobody had a queen. So that's my personal hell, more in live poker games, I guess. If you guys have any thoughts on that, feel free to comment. I mean, I try to go with, you're supposed to raise, under the gun even. And you can either flat or re-raise in late position. But middle position, on those type of hands, and I'm talking 9s, 10s, even jacks. And you have a couple of either or, aggressive players with a strong range, or tight players with a strong range. And if they're flatting there, sometimes a tight player that's flatting, their range actually looks pretty strong. Because a tight player won't be playing ace-king that aggressively. They'll probably just flat behind. And you have to worry about that because of the perceived table image that they have. Same thing with aggressive players. Since their ranges are a little wider, and especially in position, they're expected to raise you or flat you with medium hands that still beat your pocket 10s that I had, like say something like queen jack. If a aggressive player knows that you're playing those types of hands and they want to see a flat, a cheap flop, they're going to flat you. They may get out of line every now and then, but an extremely high VPIP aggro player, say that he re-raises me, and then the tight player flats there, I could potentially re-raise and isolate the aggro player because he is, aggro, he has a lot more, has a lot wider range. And then depending on what the, that was strange, depending on what the tight player does, will dictate your action. And you may end up having to fold your pocket 10s. So any of those pairs, 8, 9s, 10s, are difficult to play in any position. That's a personal weakness of mine. I think the equity, since you have to worry about players in front of you and behind you, are going to run a lot closer with those type of hands. I'd rather be raising 8, 9 suited, jack 10 suited in middle position than raising with a small, slightly larger than small pocket pairs such as 8s, 9s, and 10s. It's a little weird. So, as far as that goes, some of it is just, I hate to say the word here because it sounds like you're just giving up, but sometimes you just gotta know when to concede a pot. Yeah, if that pot got blown up a little bit from the action pre-flop, if I knew this guy was super wide, super aggressive, and I knew this guy was super tight, and they're sitting there 3, 4 and 5 betting me, then I have to find a fold with pocket 10s because their ranges are, what's the word, capped. So low limit games here, I can see raise or fold, but I want to make my range kind of broad. This is dead money here, I kind of incentivized to call since he was sitting out. I'm not going to bet, I didn't raise, so if I did raise, I would bet. And I'm just going to give up here. So let me take it. I saw a hand a second ago, and it was just completely weird to me. Let's see if I can find it. Is it this one? What happened in this one? No, it was the previous hand, I guess. Nope. Yeah, it was this one. 120. He re-raises it. Pause. So this is... That was a pre-flop raiser. He 3-bet. What did he do? He let out. Okay, that's what you're supposed to do. And he shoves. Okay, that is just extremely weird to me. And not this part, but he ends up calling. Calls with a 6. Alright, so you 4-bet a 3-bet. You re-raise the original raiser. You c-bet, you take a stab at it. I don't mind that. But if the guy is going all in on you, and you have middle pair, I think that should be a fold. Don't you guys agree? That's pretty weird. Maybe he was thinking he had a back door, or he could spike another ace or 6. Going in that line of thinking, guys, where you're pot committed because you 4-bet and then you c-bet the flop, and someone shoves with you and you have middle pair and are compelled to call, fold. Just fold. And that's what I mean, like, let's see if I have it in here. Be aware of your VPIP, your mood. This is part of establishing ranges. Ranges change throughout the sitting goes just because the blind levels change. We're still relatively early, and that hand spoke volumes of the ranges and the type of play. And if you notice, this guy didn't, key information, he didn't 4-bet his 5-bet, losing track here, but he raised, he re-raised, and he flatted there. So that's a good point to note. Maybe he'll play a similar hand in a similar situation later on. Other players may have elected to just put it all in pre-flop instead of flatting there. But I like the flat. He re-raised you, and it could have been anything with ace king, ace queen, and you kind of want to see a safe flop. See if it's safe to do the move that he did, and it was completely safe. It was pretty dry except for a flush draw, and he had overpaired to the board. So I like his play. It was fine. On that note, I definitely would have played pocket queens that way because, again, it's just a mental barrier. But last year, was it last year? Yeah, last year. I'm getting my years confused. I've been playing way too long. Last year, you'll find variance is a very funny thing. One year, you know, you do everything right and you play some way, your hands hold, but you'll get into these weird variance spots. Like, for example, last year, pocket queens was the worst hand I could ever have. No matter what I had with pocket queens, a set, you know, or a flop of straight, they'd either river me or, you know, bad beat me. And if I had to sum up the amount of money I lost with pocket queens last year, I'd say it's close to about $4,000. And this is including 200 NL, 500 NL online and live play, so $4,000, you know, and that includes adding the wins in there. So I net loss about $4,000 with pocket queens last year. The year before that, I had a weird string of pocket kings where it was all live play. I remember it was all live play at the Commerce, and I must have lost about $1,500 to $2,000 in the span of a couple of weeks. So that's where poker is always deemed to be sometimes it's deemed to be it's luck based and all this, but again, if you played out a million hands, queens are supposed to hold up in certain situations, especially when you flop a set or you redraw to a flush or whatever the situation may be. Now here's an interesting spot. Limp pot, all spades. I have the jack. I tend to play these conservatively in case you're drawing, but chances of having a queen or an ace is as likely as I have the jack. So I'm going to hope that I could have elected to build a pot. To get information. This one's a tough one. I'm going to go ahead and call here. He may have like 10 of spades, or he's betting the king. This is a clear fold, guys. No need to get stubborn. He probably has the ace, which is kind of weird because he was under the gun and didn't raise. But a one suited ace hand is pretty likely. So I'm going to go ahead and fold. I don't need to see it to know that I'm right. Plus it would diminish my chip stack. Just the way the hand played out. It was a limp pot pre-flop. Yes, it's unlikely that he held an ace, let alone an ace of spades. But it's very likely that he might have had, if he were playing an ace, the ace of spades. I had a long couple days, guys. I think I'm not gonna make it. I gotta quit doing these videos right before I go to bed. Woke up with allergies. I think in my last video I was medicated. Again, my advice is not to play drunk, high, intoxicated, or medicated. And I violated that. So we're all human after all. I was just Benadryl though. I'm talking, I guess, harder medication. And this is a weird spot. 325 with ace king. Let's see the time. I don't know why so much. Not flat. Plenty of time. Standard play there is actually a re-raise. I elected not to do that. Because we might be protecting a hand like jacks. These spots, when you have absolutely nothing, let's not try to get stubborn here. Say you're going to spec an ace of diamonds or king of clubs or something like that. Just go ahead and fold it. Yeah, I had him beat. Wow. Good bluff. I would not have put him on that hand. Not really. It's kind of weird bet sizing. He 5x'd it. That's where the advantage of re-raising on the button like I should have. But I didn't do that. Checking my phone right inside. One thing I gotta do before I go to bed is buy more Solana. Should have done it last night. I was just allergies. Benadryl. here. Notice how the table has slowed down a little bit. I don't see 4 all-ins in the span of 3 minutes. Let's move it a little bit. Let me do what he did. Raise it way too much. I got lucky there, guys. He stole a pot from me, so I steal a pot from him. Could I have waited? Sure. It's interesting too, because if I had done that to him, he would be out of the tournament. See, in retrospect though, if he did my play, he could have c-betted the flop and I might have folded. Or not c-bet, he could have bet into me on the flop and I might have folded. So, there's always a yin and a yang to strategy. But, you know, sometimes high variance plays that definitely puts you in a better position when you win them. When you lose on a high variance play, obviously you're going to be like this guy. Yeah, I was supposed to play Solana. Jack 10. Oh, you flops the nutta butter. Real cool guy. Jack 10 offsuits. Getting it all in pre-flop with ace king. And the blinds are 25-50. Would be very highly unlikely, but what if one of these players watched one of my videos and was like, wait a minute. I distinctly remember playing this game. He's talking about me. So you'll see me going back and forth between different stakes, and why would I waste my time doing that? Or it might be perceived as wasting my time. Just because your bankroll is going to be a roller coaster ride, especially if you're a beginner or intermediate, and you might as well just get used to pumping up the stakes when you're playing well and running good. But if history shall have it, for most poker players, there will be at least one time when your entire bankroll will be down to zero, or even worse, negative. Whereas you have your bankroll, right? You start off with $2,000 and you lose it, and then you immediately run to the ATM and grab another 600. You know, I've done it. All right, I don't think I'm digging this music. Jazz is not my thing, or whatever that sound is. Is that a saxophone or something? Let's see if I can switch music here. Let's try this. Sorry about that, all about Benjamins. It might put you to sleep, but it's almost my bedtime anyway. Alright, let's see if I can add some content here. Journal strategies, be aware of stakes, general player pool. when you sit down, lives and goes tournaments, it doesn't really matter. Get a feel for their VPIP ranges and per position and how they play at those positions. Be aware of your VPIP and your mood. I'm aware that I'm tired. I'm aware that I'm playing a C game right now because I want to present this content and play this game at the same time, but at the same time I'm missing information. This is just a dry hand. Now if a diamond comes on a turn or any pair, I would elect to bet, and I got nothing. Okay, so actually I would still have nothing, but I'm gonna go ahead and bet because my 7 high is probably not that good. There we go. Because my range includes the deuce, includes the 3. You know, so might as well bet there if you check C. Be aware of your VPIP. Let's see. Be aware of blind levels and how it changes your play and your opponent's. I tend to get a little more aggressive towards the end of the tournament, which is this kind of a standard strategy. It's just how and when to apply pressure. If you observe from here that this player's VPIP has not slowed down, the ranges are uncapped, it'll pay off to be more aggressive with your strong hands. Because most of the time you're going to beat their the range of hands that they're playing. Same thing with conservative players. If you observe that they've been, oh man, I wish we would have lost another one there. If you observe that they've been playing pretty tight, playing 2 hands in 30 minutes, you can open your range in position, of course, and get them to fold most of the time. If you think you can get them to fold more than 65-70% of the time based on applying pressure and based on their range, then definitely do so. Every now and then they'll wake up with a hand, of course, and you'll know because you're aware that just because you raised pre-flop and you may have 3-bet or 4-bet, you can find a fold. I think I would say if other players at the casinos were to characterize my range and how I play and style play, just a general thing, I hope they would say that he's a player that finds spots where he can justify hero calling and being right, you know, at least 75% of the time. I've hero called, of course, and been wrong, just like everybody else has, but at least 75% of the time. And the same thing with hero folds. Hero folds is when you have a super strong hand and a player puts a lot of pressure on you, but it only makes sense to fold there after you've gone through the hand mentally, and there's only 1 or 2 possible hands that they could have, and it's a good spot to fold. That's why it's a hero fold. You're still a hero because you could have lost a lot more money if you had called. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. It's as basic as that. Ooh, I would have got a nice pot there. Deuce 6 suited, out of my range, under the gun. So be aware of blind levels and how it changes. We're at 50-100. This guy just doesn't care anymore. Again, you'll find this on occasion in higher stakes games, but cheap games like this, you'll see this all the time. Just randomly going all in with 20 big blinds. And you got lucky there with, you got lucky with folds there. I'm not sure why he would have raised 500 and not been pot committed, since this guy has already shown a lot of loose aggressiveness there. Ace Jack, it's a good spot to steal there. With that, if you know that the other two players are weak, but if they're moderate to strong players, expect to get called off, even if you shove with Ace Jack. Ace Jack would have been a nice flop here, but Ace Jack is my nemesis. Ace Jack offsuit for sure. Any poker game style, sit and go cash games, tournaments. Ace Jack is just one of those hands that are perceived to be a very strong ace. But most of the time you're not good unless you're flipping with, you're still not good if you're flipping with a pair, but it's definitely not good if you're flipping with, say, pocket jacks, pocket queens, and certainly kings and aces. Alright, queen jack on the button, offsuits. This guy could jam. So here's an interesting spot. If I flat here and this jams, what do I do? You call out your play before you do it. You know, if I'm going to flat here, and if this guy jams, and depending on what these guys do, if they call, I'm folding. If they fold, I will probably call. Let's see. Okay, he flats there, okay. Safe play, I'm still getting my pot odds here. No one can really represent the king, but a hard draw can certainly bet here. You may have something like king 10 offsuit. Either way, my best is an offsuit 10, no heart. So I've got my pot odds, and I don't need to commit any more chips to the pot. Oh man, look at that. We would flop the nut straight. This is what you're going to find with me. It's funny, he raises right there. Why would he raise there? Maybe got two pair, now he checks it. Queen 7, he raises with middle pair, and draw. These guys are loose, man. Random all in. Okay, so if you notice, this guy has an extremely high VPIP, extremely aggressive. So unless you're the aggressor and you're forced to call in that situation, it's better to be tight than to gamble with ace 10 and like, well, he could have anything. He could have king 9. No. Let's not do that. That's incorrect thinking there. Because just because he's playing that doesn't mean he can't wake up with a hand. Like this guy, I don't know how much he had, only 400. King, he could have waited a little longer, but you know, to each his own. Alright, so my last point, I'm trying to think, I feel like I'm missing something here. Be aware of blind levels, how it changes your play and your opponents. Oh. Now, okay, so I'm taking advantage of this. I limped in with the ace, where other players would have been like, oh, he's loose. So let me raise with my weak ace. Now, let's try to get some value for top pair. This one, now that he checks it to me, I wouldn't overbet here. I would just value bet. That I could have the flush draw. Oh yeah, nice, yes, thank you. I did not know you had a terrible hand. Being sarcastic there, guys. I was hoping you had a flush draw, actually. It was a very good bet for a flush draw. I made it about 80% pot. Get frisky here. Heads up. I haven't played him specifically. He knows to fold it. I've been playing. My VPIP is probably around 15%. My live VPIP is probably close to 13 to 15%. When you start hitting 25 to 35% VPIP, then you're going to have a roller coaster session. Or if you're hitting all your cards and getting lucky, then you're going to have an extremely highly profitable session. I don't like to ride my emotions on that. I need to work on that. Every now and then, I want to play a little higher variance, because there's no better feeling than to sit at a table, sit down for 2 hours, and walk out with, $800, $1,000. It's like I did my work. Now I have the rest of the day free. And time is more valuable than money could ever be. That's if you got things to do. You're blind, how changes your play and your opponent's play. Maybe I don't have a last point. I thought I might have 5 good points, but this is a pretty generic outline. And I guess the last point is, as the blind levels, not my favorite ace. Okay, so here, this is an interesting spot. Even though I hate ace jack, and this is suited, I'm just going to go ahead and make it big. Open if you want. Alright, cool. See? Yes! Yes! I got rid of the loose cannon. Okay, so let's back up for a second. That's a good hand to talk about. This is where you going to do what I did in 10 years, you're going to do in 3 years, because I'm telling you all this ahead of time. So you're going to take advantage of this content, because I'm telling you not from a book, I'm not telling you from math, I'm just telling you from raw experience what I've learned. So in this spot here, you have ace jack, even though I hate that hand. Even though I hate that hand, it's still considered a good ace, right? And they both limped, and he's already shown to raise his terrible hands and his good hands, so he could have either or, but the fact that this guy limped and he just flatted is more likely that he had a worse hand, right? So, I go ahead and made a sizable re-raise, or 3-bet there, a raise. Knowing that this guy's range, I think, has been a little tighter. Wait, hold on, I gotta focus. I do want to call and spike an ace and get some money in. I'm scared of running away. No. Didn't I just show you what I had? Alright, so this is where I play the reverse psychology. I'm just gonna go ahead and show him. Maybe he shows. No. So now this guy's thinking, oh, he just folded ace king to me, and I had pocket fives. So he's going to try to take advantage of that. But next time, I know that he knows that. So depending on the spot, I'm going to do something different. Alright, so this is weird. This is a weird common spot where you get limp and raise. And then you're in the blinds, you're incentivized to call. But this is actually not a very big calling hand because you don't know what this guy's going to do. If you re-raise and he's slow playing, he's going to re-pop it anyways. And conversely, if I call and he re-raises and he jams, I lose $300. Plus, king high, not king 9 offsuit is not going to flop very well. So, tank fold there. So back to this hand. Yeah, and I'll miss most flops, as you can see there. Back to this hand. Since I know that this guy's range is wide and he's loose aggressive and he can play his good hands and bad hands the same way, and his VPIP is very high, and he's most likely going to have a weak range because he would not flat here with an ace X, maybe something like even as loose as ace 10 or ace 9. He's going to be popping those. So that's why I made the sizing that I did. If I made it 750, I'm putting this guy in a tough spot. If he jams, I'm probably folding. But if he flats, it'd be awkward. But if I can get him out of the way and isolate this guy, I know my range is going to encapsulate his range by a far margin. I mean, it's ridiculous. Man, we're really close. Another advantage of showing ace king is he might think I have ace king again and doesn't want to gamble there. So even though he was like, haha, I have pocket 6s or 7s and you folded ace king because I raised you, he's still thinking I have something like ace king. So whatever hand he doesn't have that's not premium, he's probably going to fold and not do a move like that. He could have, but you know, you don't. I don't want to use this term bullied, but you don't want to get bullied. And probably going to, if he flatted there, I'm probably c-betting my entire range in that spot. This is where observation, especially live, you really want to separate your. I got to get this one particular player back. This is a show of force. I mean, even if he has ace king, it puts him on a tough spot because he's still deep, and everybody's chip stacks are relatively close. So does he really want to risk it? If he woke up with kings or aces, I'm just screwed there. But now this guy thinks I'm being the bully. What do I do here? Jacks is not. Let's see what he does. No. Okay. See, this is an okay flop. Not because I have overpaired to the board, but 10s are certainly in my range. Jacks, backdoor flush are certainly in my range. Now I got a backdoor flush. This is where you kind of play. Okay, I definitely got to play this conservative, just based on the action. I don't know what he has. He could value bet as 10 there, but... Alright, this is a standard call, just based on how it's played. But if he happens to have a king or anything higher than that, it's fine. 10, oh, he flopped the full house. I made a mistake. Probably should have raised my jacks there. Definitely made a mistake. So, I was hoping most flops are not going to be like that. It'll just seem like it when you did the shoulda, woulda, coulda mentality. But no, I did make a mistake there. And I think in mistakes too, as a beginner, when you make mistakes, just make sure they're actual mistakes. Like, don't necessarily discuss it with a player at the table, because confirmation bias, right? So the other video where I highlighted that hand where I flopped the boat and the guy with trip eights, I assume he had trip eights. Say he complains to the player next to him, and he's like, "Oh man, I had to call. I had trip eights." And what is that guy gonna do? He's the guy that's soothing him, basically saying, "There, you know, it wasn't a bad call." That's confirmation bias. You know, he's saying that you did okay. You should have called there with trip eights, even though it was a tough spot. So, just heed of warning. People will spot that you might be new at the table and take advantage of that. And they'll just, because they don't want to, I'm just going to go ahead and fold this. I don't feel like very aggressive. Let's see how much time we have. Time check. We have 7 minutes to the next level, so it's definitely going to get a little sticky here pretty soon. At this point, since we're at the bubble, the essential bubble, I'm really hoping someone just lays one, you know, ideally the short stack, but these guys could get it in and get a good deal. Especially when you're not waking up with hands. So back to this hand, I know I'm going back and forth, but I really like the play I did here. The bets I went 750. This is guy in a tough spot. If he flats, different situation. If he really raises, a different situation. But I had a feeling he was going to fold. He was just trying to sneak in there with Queen Jack or 9-10 suited or something like that. So I had in my mind that already, and this is a key point too, decide some spots you want to decide in the moment what you want to do. Other spots you can decide ahead of time. The problem with the in the moment decision is that you could make a wrong decision just based off your emotions and not strategy. But I had an inkling that this guy was just going to gamble, and I was willing to take that gamble. Given, again, going back to general strategy basics, his VPIP, his ranges, he's playing wide VPIP in every position. He could have, we already eliminated the fact that he's not going to have a strong hand there, and my range obliterates his range. So even though I would have got stacked there, if I had lost, it was still, I was ahead pre-flop, and it was a good, educated gamble to gamble that spot against this particular player. If it was this player, or maybe even this player, I know these players have a slightly smaller VPIP, I would consider folding to a jam, but not this particular guy. Based, again, on reading your opponents as you're playing the game. We're pretty close here. So I've noticed this guy's limped in on my blinds a few times. I may have to get a little fancy there and raise some weaker hands. I think I mentioned that. So as be aware of the blind levels and how it changes your play and your opponent's play. The blind levels are getting high. He thinks he can keep sneaking in there with a limp. So if it limps to him, okay, I was going to say, if it limps to him and he calls, I'm raising. I know I have a crappy hand, but you can't just be flatting there with, and just waiting on hands. Alright, let's see, let's bump this up a little bit. A lot of people like this hand, it's my particular favorite, but it does tend to flop well. Finished my sentence here. As the blind levels blank. Fill in the blank. What was I going to say? I'm going to make up something, but it's on my... I'm going to complete the sentence. I'm not sure I was going to say it in the first place. But as the blind levels increase, in general, you want to be slightly more aggressive. For example, small blind consistently raises limps in as the... That's a weird bet by him. As the blind levels consistently limps in. Small blind consistently limps in. I can't pronounce anything right now. Small blind consistently limps in. Raise weaker hands if premiums I want a queen. All I did was switch their places, so now I'm venturing to guess number one here. This guy's getting annoying. 2 rounds in a row, and yes, I did notice that. Now, I'm going to guess here, take an educated guess. I bet this guy's going to get a little more conservative. He's getting a chip stack. God damn it, that's me in a tough spot. I don't want to raise him light. 4 seconds. Small blind consistently limps in. Raise weaker hands and premium hands. Not okay. And we take stabs here. If he jams, I'm clearly folding. His range is definitely stronger than this guy that was here. Partly because I gotta get some chips back this way. Just raising my balls too. We get aces and kings, and let's get this over with. It's 8:26. I get the bed by 9. It gives me 3 plus 4, 7 hours sleep. I want to get up. I want to get up at 4. Doesn't look very likely. I got a pair. Oh, I would have got 2 pairs. That was not a very good spot to peel. Bottom pair. No real. Okay, here's an interesting spot. I'm just going to go ahead and jam here. Because if I raise, and he's going to go re-raise anyways. In other words, I don't have enough fold equity. If I made it 600 to fold. If I made it 600 and he re-raises me, I'm going to call, you know? So, might as well get it in. My baby girl's up there tonight. Friend texted me here. Do you notice the difference between air frying and baking in an oven? Well, one, I never bake in an oven. I use my toaster oven. And when I do use a toaster oven, I tend to marinate it. So yes, there's a big difference. No. I was going to do the same thing again, but I want to play Bloated Plot. If I call here and he jams, the other guy going to re-raise. I'll let him do the damage. Come on, all in, bro. Only way. Only way. Time to get aggressive. Like I said, time to get more aggressive. Pocket fours. Give this guy his chips back. See, this is another. I could re-raise, and he might fold, but if he raises, I mean, it's a 750. He can re-pop it if he wants. You guys can deal with it. Oh! Alright, game over. Good job. Go team SoCal Poker and Life. Alright. Okay, no, I don't want to play. I'm tired. Alright, so, wow, successful video. Won me a grand total of $14. $7 triple up. Net 14. Cannot complain. I think that game was less than an hour, so that's good. Actually, I can tell by how long this video is, right? Let's see. I don't know where the recorder thingy went. Oh, anyways, it didn't seem like that long because I'm enjoying my time here and I like doing this. This helps me out just as much as it helps you because, again, it reinforces foundations. Maybe I'll forget a few things here and there that I have buried in the back of my mind, and I'm just bringing it up to my conscious level, and I'm just drilling down on basics and fundamentals and keeping it with you. And that's part of my success, I think, is that when things get too weird, you always go back to your fundamentals and play straight up. This is playing straight up. In my opinion, this is strategy, general strategy, but it is playing straight up. And it's probably the more optimal way to play one table sim goes. So there you go. I think I did a pretty good job illustrating that. We sat down. We talked about it's a low stakes game. Yeah, let's do that real quick. Some key notes here, and you might want to do this probably sooner than later. Might be easier at home than in a live setting. I will tell you this, when I started playing live and I started learning pot odds and equity and everything else, I was the guy that sat there and I was pointing and counting the chips because I couldn't get a rough estimate just by looking at it. The emotions were driving me. When you get in that hyper state of excitement, no matter what it is, you don't think as well. And that's how it was for me when I first started playing, and I wanted to count the pot and all this, but at the same time I'm nervous and the clock is ticking and people are wanting to call the clock because I'm taking too long and everything else. There's going to be a time period where you're trying to focus on all these different strategies and apply them, but applying them is also an exercise because there's a lot of mental energy associated with that. Of course, just like riding a bike and everything else, once you learn it, it becomes easy and automatic. So anyways, speaking of easy and automatic, sit and goes are, in my opinion, at this stage of my career, it's fairly automatic. Even the $50 triple ups or $100 sit and goes. What's the biggest one they have on this site is $200 buy-in turbo. six-handed, and top price is $750. Lasts 40 minutes because it's a turbo and it's not available in standard sit and go format. So it's a tougher game, it's more aggressive, and there's more money on the line. But all of this still applies. It really does. It really does. That game, yeah, and you know, first time I played it, I lost because I was, again, never played the stakes first time, and I was nervous behind a computer, everything else, and I lost. And there's something about losing money that quickly online, $200 buy-in, that there is a shock factor, and we'll talk about that in a bankroll video I plan on making. But that's one of the things of taking a stab at higher limits. You don't realize how much money you just lost, assuming that you lose. Maybe you get lucky and you win your first session when you move up. But when you do lose a significant amount of money the first time you move up stakes, it's I kind of impose it as a reality check in my mind, but maybe that's a bad terminology because you want to reinforce good behavior. So maybe I moved up stakes, I played well and still lost. So I don't want to call it a reality check, but a reality check in the sense that it is for higher dollar amounts. So anyways, just to hone in on my general strategy basics here, and I'll list the observations that I had, right? So general player pool, it's a $7 sit and go. VPIP, I noticed two players in position, fairly in position IP. You'll learn to make acronyms real quick because it takes a long time to type them out and, you know, text your friends and everything. 2 players in position, highly aggro, high VPIP, aggro, and then etc. 1 player before me, 1 player out of position, super high VPIP, you know, something in general like that, where you're reviewing the session, what went well and what did not, what did you observe. Very important when you lose, and almost as important when you win. Because a lot of times, like I say, you get into those long win streaks and you just expect to win, like you're on top of the world. It'll happen, trust me. And then your ego explodes and you think you can't be beaten. It's because, well, you're either playing well and catching cards and you have the right players at the table to take advantage of that, and you did get lucky, but at some point you did do well and you made a lot of money, right? But at some point you're going to hit a wall, whether it's bad cards or better players or just luck that ruins your streak. So, and anyways, the point is, when you get in those winning streaks, it's hard to justify to go back and learn what you learned when you're winning. What is there to learn when you're winning? So that would be, I guess, one of my commandments, my personal commandments, is learning to win even after you win. So I'm going to put that down there in a minute. Actually, I'll do it now because I keep saying things like that and I forget to do it. So, learn from winning, not just from losing. It's funny when you come up with these generic statements, you can almost apply it to anything. You know, dating and other problems or other issues in your life, right? So poker is a lifelong thing, right? So be aware of your VPIP and perception of your VPIP. I was definitely aware. I was aware because I got more aggressive, increased VPIP as SNG moved on. I don't know what everybody else's awareness was, but I was aware of mine, and I took advantage of that when the small blind kept limping in and I re-raised a weak hand and I was able to steal some blinds there. Be aware of blind levels and how it changes your play and your opponent's play. Well, I just stated that example. Small blind. Consistently limps in, plays slightly more aggressive. So this kinda, this example is also number 4 as well. But say that the blind levels increase and you still have a full table, this is definitely more applicable. When you get down to 5 and 4-handed, it does pay off to be slightly more aggressive, especially when when you can get away with some bluffs and when you get away with getting paid for a strong hand. Well, that is it. I am going to export this right away, upload it to YouTube, see if the music got better, if there's no static in the background, and just see how the overall quality, the lighting. Thank you, Mr. Coworker, that mentioned my lighting was bad, and apparently we need to emphasize how good looking I am. But that's okay. Fair game. I hope you guys took away a lot from this video. I did want to cover bankroll management, but obviously we don't have time now. But I think this is a good recap of a continuous theme that I'll have for playing poker. Alright guys, SoCal Poker and Life is out, and if I can find the stop button here. Oh, it's not here, that's what it was, it was hidden. I don't know if you guys can see that. Oh, I did last an hour. Jeez, time flies when you're having fun. Or time flies when you're playing poker. Because sometimes it's not fun when you're losing. But find a way to have fun when you're losing, I guess it's not that bad either. Alright, anyways, I am out. See you guys later.